Uh, Excellent. All right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Tipple's Wine of the Week virtual wine tasting with Elizabeth and Jeff Vaudreuil, the owners of Tipple's Brews and Wines in Gainesville, Florida. Thank you for joining us. I think you'll enjoy this wine tonight. Well, I think you'll enjoy every wine I choose. I hope, anyway. Right? This week, we are going to be enjoying the Orin Swift, going back to Orin Swift wines, Orin Swift Mannequin Chardonnay from California, a varietal in location that has been, had a little friction on it because it's having a little bit of a tough time right now, I think, transitioning from generation to generation. But honestly, Chardonnay is a wonderful wine. And I think we're going to see that tonight. So if you have not already done so, go ahead and pop open that bottle of wine. And I recommend chilling it down to about 45 to 50 degrees, European cellar temperatures at the minimum.
So about an hour.
So about an hour in the refrigerator. If it gets a little lower, great, no problem, because it'll warm up as we drink. Ours is a little cooler than that. Ours is probably around upper 30s, I would guess, about right now.
Okay.
Well, let's get some wine.
So with it being cooler, will we not taste the flavors as well?
Well, to an extent, yes, but white wine is meant to be served chilled, so. And it won't be overly. This is in upper 30s. You're fine. I mean, if this thing was almost frozen, then yes, you're certainly going to be tasting a lot less and smelling a lot less. But this should be fine.
I love how you said upper 30s. You're going to be fine, and I'm thinking, I'm not going to be fine in the upper 30s. When we walk the dog at night, I ask Google what the temperature is. If it starts with a 7, I put my hoodie on.
Yes.
So.
And I laugh at you.
Yes, and you laugh at me.
That's
there
true.
You go.
By the way, if you ever do have a situation with an overly chilled wine, red or white, happens, right? Great way to warm it up. You just take your glass, you wrap your hands around the bottom, and you swirl it, which we don't need to do, but that is a great way. Just give it a swirl. Your hands, you can feel the coolness, on your hands. And so that'll transfer the heat right through the glass. And it's a great way to warm wine up quickly.
Okay.
If you over chill.
So is that why you're not supposed to hold your glass like this?
That is exactly
You're supposed
why.
to hold your glass by the stem.
Right. You're supposed to hold it by the stem.
So that you don't warm it up.
So you don't warm up your glass.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Like, good point. I like it all. So. All right, let's look at the slide. We'll talk about food pairings, and we'll get back to our initial impressions of what we're smelling and tasting.
Okay.
I forgot to tell it to, it's pulled up. It's just not in presentation mode.
Is it here? Okay.
Yep, right there.
Okay.
Boom. All right, so ratings in this guy, Robert Parker gave it a 91 points. Pairings, really, Chardonnay is really all about the food pairings. Oh, there are a lot of people actually that just love the taste of Chardonnay anyway, which is great, that's fine. But it really is a wonderful food pairing wine. In this case, seafood with a butter or cream sauce, chicken piccata, and our favorite, personally, which I threw our recipe on there, the turkey with butternut squash turmeric chili. Which is a great pairing. Yeah. All right, we'll jump back to us and I'll talk a little bit about the wine. This is 100% Chardonnay, no other blended in. Alcohol content on this guy, 15% for a white.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so.
You guys like it better now, right?
Yeah, that's right. Hey, I'm bringing the heat. So
15% for white. I don't think we've ever had a white at 15%.
I agree. I don't think we have had a white at 15%. Normally it's around what? Do you remember? And
Chardonnay?
Yeah, like our whites in general.
Okay, 13.
Yeah, 12 and a half plus.
Okay.
Yeah, 12 and a half to 14. Yeah, so 15% is a big wine. So we do talk about this regularly at this point, age worthy, right? There are whites that can age. This is really not meant to be aged. All right, but with the higher alcohol content, this guy could go 5+ years.
Oh, okay. That's surprising.
I'm sure it wouldn't taste bad at 10 years. It's really not meant for it.
There's a selling point. It won't taste bad.
It probably would be just fine. In fact,
Okay.
it would just as white wine ages, it darkens and
Right.
becomes a little bit more caramelly. So the buttery side of this would just become more intense. So honestly, it could go, but I'm not saying it would be optimal.
Okay.
And really optimally, this is a freshly consumed wine.
Okay.
So. Aged in oak. Clearly, we're getting that on there with that buttery creaminess. 56% of which is new. So that's a higher new oak content than we've had in most of the wines that we've had.
Sure.
But it is French, so it's not a butter bomb.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All
So
right.
we've talked about this in previous tastings. American oak is much more aggressive in how much flavor of the buttery oakiness it imparts in a wine. French oak is not as aggressive. So they have a larger amount of new oak is more aggressive. Once it's had wine in it once, it reduces how much it affects it, right? But it is more neutral style of oak.
And Paul and Linda have a question.
Okay.
Hey, I'm doing my best to try to start picking out like flavors, and I like how initially you asked for like first impressions. And I'm sure I'm wrong, because again, I'm still a novice and learning and everything. But as soon as I opened it up and took a first sip, I got apricot.
I can totally go there. Absolutely.
Okay, good. I feel a little bit better about myself now.
Yeah, no, I could totally go there. Like, there are going to be a lot of things because a nice cool growth Chardonnay will start out with kind of an apple pear. And then when you warm it up with the oak, you get more tropical and it moves along a linear thing. So I think apricot's a great call because it moves it to a more tropical version of that apple pear on the way in. And this guy's definitely is more on that tropical side. There's, I could go a little bit of pineapple
Okay.
on the finish.
Yeah.
You get a little honeycomb.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I told Paul, I said, it doesn't smell like a normal Chardonnay to me, but you know, it's still a Chardonnay, but it doesn't smell, and initially on the front end, it doesn't taste to me like, I don't know, like what I would expect. So that was different for me. I felt he tasted apricot, but I felt like I tasted some brighter tones, maybe a little citrus. So when you said pineapple, I was like, okay, maybe that's it. But I'm not sure what it is, but it doesn't taste like what I thought. So I'm surprised.
You said similar to a 7.
Well, this is I wanted to give you guys something that was balanced. So this has the buttery tones of traditional without going overboard, but it's really nicely cool growth grapes, which gives you some nice freshness and acid.
Okay.
Right. So there's two ways that you can get, because Chardonnay, a cool growth Chardonnay tends to be more apple pear to start with, right? But a warm growth Chardonnay is going to be a bit more tropical on its own.
Okay.
But you can get tropical notes with the apple pear. So there's this, chicken and the egg thing. So in this case, what we're talking about is we have cool growth Chardonnay starting with a tart apple pear. And then they added this nice oak to it, which has modified it and made it where you get some of that tartness running through and you get the nice tropical notes of maybe some papaya, some peach, that kind of a thing, instead of just apple pear tart, right? Now, and it's kind of an interesting thing. But then Jeff, okay, well, how do you know the difference? Like, is it cool growth with oak that gives it tropical notes, or is it just a warm growth Chardonnay? Well, the difference is when you get done, have a sip and then pay attention to how much tartness you get lingering on your palate after you swallow. You see how you're getting a nice, like that, I mentioned that honeycomb, but there's a tartness still on the end, on the finish of the sip. That means you had cool growth with oak because the tartness wouldn't still be there with warm growth.
Oh, okay.
With warm growth, you go in, it's all this tropical papaya, pineapple, and it just falls off at the end.
Okay.
Big alcohol on those. cheaper wines and and more tropical notes that just fall off and they don't really have a finish.
Okay.
So a better, cooler grown, a longer growth period on your Chardonnay gives you a nice backbone of acidity that creates a significant quality step up in your Chardonnay.
So that acidity adds to why it can age some.
Yes,
too, right?
that would be too. Yes.
All right.
And it adds to its ability to pair with more foods.
Okay.
Because that acid is going to play with what you're eating, right? So with the creamy, it'll add some lift to it. If it's a really sharp cheese, it'll help kind of work through that and play with it. So anyway, that's kind of that difference. Because a lot of less expensive Chardonnays will be really warm growth because it'll grow fast, it'll make a lot of sugar, and it'll taste very pleasant. It just doesn't have a finish.
Okay.
So.
And it's not as important to pair with something, or it doesn't play with it as much.
A lot of those, they call them porch pounders. It's really just to be, you drink it around the pool. It's a casual, consumption kind of thing. Often not paired with anything.
All right. So when you're going to one of your kids' sporting events and you want to put something in a Yeti, you just take that. And...
That's right. Exactly. Or, you want to be fancy, pinky up, just take this.
Yeah, there you
put
go.
That in the Yeti. It'll work. So I like the play here, a combination of rich tones, tropical tones, and some nice acidity.
I'm getting more pineapple now, actually.
Yeah, it's a really nice wine. It's got richness, it has ripeness, but it's not over the top. I don't feel like I want to stop sipping this because I've got so much butter built up on my palate. Right?
Yeah, true.
Right, but it has all that creaminess and richness. And I like the whole description of honeycomb on there because I think that's a better description of this and why I kind of like it. So, anyway, so there we go. Let's jump back over. Let's talk about this wonderful grape, Chardonnay.
My favorite.
So the poor Chardonnay grape is having a transitional moment in the world, at least as far as Tipples is concerned. But it is overall the most planted white grape in the world.
Okay, does it get blended with a lot of things too, or is it just it's single varietal usually?
It is dominantly single varietal still, right?
Okay.
But incredibly flexible. All right, so let's go with the original. I'm going to start with this, and I'm going to get into exactly that, right? All right, so the origin is in Burgundy in France. In fact, it originated in a village called Chardonnay. It's true. Which means thistle-covered place. It's a thistle-y place. So anyway, green-skinned grape. Considered it's a fairly neutral tasting. Like I said, it's a little bit of an apple pear, but kind of a delicate tasting wine that it produces on its own. So it really picks up a lot of flavor from its location and what you do after it with the barrels, which is why it can pick up so much buttery oakiness if you want to go that direction or not.
Does anyone use steel barrels?
Absolutely.
Okay. What's the taste difference with that?
All right. So if you go unoaked is the term used for it, and that's all stainless steel fermentation.
Okay.
Or the Aussies call it unwooded.
Oh.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay.
Not that I know any other wood that people are using. I haven't seen a hickory barrel aged wine. So, but anyway.
It's always oak.
Everything I've seen.
Huh.
I don't see any reason why that should have to be the case, but everything I've seen.
Okay.
If there isn't one, if there's one with another wood, I want to try it. But
flash pine.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I'm pretty sure sap is poisonous. Yeah. And I know magnolia won't work. Anyway, so it's a flexible grape. It can run anywhere from, like I mentioned, a tart acid, apple-y pear, all the way to this pineapple papaya thing with warm growth. So that's cool to warm growth, depending on what's going on. And it is also flexible in that the presentation, right? It is everything from mostly still Chardonnay, but it's in blends. It's in champagne. It's, so, and it's in lots of French sparkling in general. So if it's in the Champagne region, Like a Brut is a combination of Chardonnay and Pinot Noir.
Huh.
All right, so
Yeah.
Champagne Brut. Now, if you're a Brut from anywhere, I mean, the Gruet, for example, the Gruet, which is New Mexico,
Mhm.
is Chardonnay and Pinot Noir too. So Brut sparkling wine, whether it's from Champagne or not, usually, well, I'm not usually, it's going to have Chardonnay in it,
Okay.
right?
About what
well,
percentage?
almost
Because I
always.
don't feel like when I taste a Brut, it tastes like Chardonnay to me at all.
Well, it's dominantly Chardonnay most of
Really?
the time. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
that's interesting.
Now, obviously, there are other things like there's Prosecco that's called Brut, right? So it's not
Mhm.
any sparkler that says the word Brut on it,
Okay.
but largely, you're
Largely.
going to have Chardonnay in there.
Okay.
And then if it says Blanc de Blanc, right?
Mhm.
White of white, that's all Chardonnay, almost always.
Oh,
So
that's
once again,
interesting.
there may be a few, there are going to be some exceptions
Yeah.
out there, but almost always a Blanc de Blanc sparkling wine
Mhm.
is going to be Chardonnay, 100%.
Okay, so did I miss you telling me what it tasted like if it was just unwooded?
Oh, no,
Okay.
I forgot to, I got onto my own thing.
Okay.
Because that question wasn't on my notes.
None of my questions are on your notes.
No, it's
so-
fine. We have several at the store.
Okay.
All right. And I actually just drank one today to a
Mhm.
little higher end version. So you take out the buttery oakiness, right? So you're going to have the base that I talked about, a tart apple pear,
Mhm.
or if it's warm growth, which like Four Vines Naked
Mhm.
is they call it naked Chardonnay because it's
Okay.
unoaked, right? So
Oh.
that one's a warm growth from
Okay.
California,
Mhm.
and it's more tropical.
Okay.
But it doesn't have the buttery oaky side, right? So and maybe a little creaminess if they give it some malolactic fermentation, which is they let it hang out and get a little bacterial thing going on in there to give it some heaviness. So you
Okay.
can get that similar effect. It's not all from, which we'll talk about. It's
Okay.
not all from the barrel.
Okay.
So there's also a thing with, for example, this is aged on the lees. That's going to be our term that we're going to talk about. Our wine term of the week is aging on the lees. Sur lie is the
Okay.
French term on the lees. But our lees, that is, we'll talk about it more extensively, but it adds creaminess from that as well. So, but it
Okay.
can be really zingy. Famous region for that, Chablis in France. So within Burgundy in France, sub-region Chablis, they like a much crisper. They rarely use oak. They do use some sometimes, but not. They have many that have zero oak
Okay.
on them, and that's much, and it's cool growth, so it's crisp and zingy, and
It can still have complexity even without the oak.
it can. Oh yeah,
It can.
absolutely. Yeah.
It's harder.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it is harder. They get a lot of their from they're grown in a very chalky soil, and
it's
so they're pulling a lot of
their environment.
minerality to give it
Okay.
interest.
All right.
Okay.
Would you like for me to advance?
Yes, please. All right, so let's do the taste profile. Yellow apple, star fruit, one of my favorite descriptors. Because to me, that's that combination of apple going to tropical,
Mhm. Mhm.
pineapple, vanilla notes, butter, buttery oaky, depending on how much oak you put on this guy. Dry, yes, not bone dry, but medium dry. Medium bodied, yep, because it is one of the heavier bodied whites. So basically Chardonnay and Semillon are the two white wines that give a lot of weight on your palate. That's
Okay.
that round, weighty. It's not
Mhm.
wispy feeling on your palate, and they give nice presence on the palate. Tannins or none. I don't know why they have like any bar.
That's what I was wondering. It says none, but there's some on the bar.
Yeah. Maybe technically, I don't know. Nothing perceptually. Acidity. There are much higher acid white grapes out there. I mean, you can get some high acid Chardonnay. I've had some that were very, very tart and tasted a lot like cat pee. But
so we don't have those.
it was on purpose.
We don't have those in the store.
No, that's not. I did not
put a little shelf talker. This one tastes like cat pee.
Yeah, I would not revisit. Medium acidity. I mean, you go to something like Sauvignon Blanc is famous for higher acidity. People talk about grapefruit in the profile, so much more tart, right? And ABV, we're right up at the top of the heap here.
Yeah.
Though Chardonnay does produce a lot of sugar compared to other whites, and you're on the higher end because you see there's not like an 11 or 12 and a half.
Yeah. I didn't realize that.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Yeah. So a really flexible grape. You can make a lot of different styles out of it, and you can see why people use it. And it is used so much in the world.
Yeah, you said it was the most planted.
The most planted white varietal in the
Okay,
world.
I couldn't remember if it was just most planted or most planted white.
Most planted white.
Okay.
The most planted red is
Cab.
Cab Sauv, Cabernet Sauvignon.
I don't like the pop quiz.
You don't like that?
No.
I thought it was something new I was going to try. Then let's see how it is.
Jeff's gonna see how much I actually listen to him when he talks about this.
I'm starting to put things in here. It's like, and then ask Elizabeth this.
Yeah.
You take over. All right.
Ready?
Yes. All right. So here we go. Wine term. Surly. Surly is the same as saying aged on the lees.
Okay.
All right. Contact with fine lees develops a creamy flavors, maybe nutty or yeasty, like a brioche. That is also very present in champagne, true champagne, not just sparkling wine, because only the champagne has it sit on that yeast, which gives that little brioche quality to a champagne, a little, I call it like a sweetbread quality almost. So on the lees, that term is called surly. So what is a lee, right? What are lees? Let's go to the next slide, please.
Okay.
I realized I had to do a twofer this week. So it's a mixture of the dead yeast, which I hate that term. It's really sleeping yeast mostly. I mean, they die, but grape skins, seeds, and stems. That happens initially. They call it's called racking off. They just drain off the good juice and they leave everything on the bottom, right? And then when you do that, there's going to be a little bit of additional, almost nothing left but the yeast. That's the yeast that ages on. It doesn't age on all the skin and stems. That would give too many other off flavors.
Okay.
So and that's called the fine lees. The fine lees. After you get it done, it's finally
Yeah.
on top of just those leaves. Right?
Okay.
And what does this look like? Well, there it is. So here's your final product. Here it is mixed with the leaves. They all gravity fall out of solution and get down to the bottom. They're so fine, they'll just flow in there when you disturb the tank.
Except for the foam, it looks kind of like apple juice that has like the apple. And it's still like if you shake it up, it kind of looks like that.
Like an unfiltered apple juice. And you're talking about it's unfiltered alcoholic grape juice. I mean, that's in the end
it's like
what we're really talking about.
If you juice an apple, like that's what it looks like when you're just like using a juicer. Yeah.
There it is. So those are the lees, and that is surly aging or aged on the lees. That's what we're talking about. And what it creates is a creamy smoothness in the wine and a little bit of kind of that biscuity brioche quality.
What are they using for filtration? Like what are they?
They have many different options.
Okay.
All right. There's mechanical. There's some of the traditional ones that will actually use egg whites.
Oh yeah,
Remember
those
we
are
talked
the
about
ones that you said that they are non-vegan.
Non-vegan, right? Because they use egg whites. Right.
Okay.
But it will grab all of that and clumps it and makes it fall out of solution.
And then they just like drop the bottom out or something.
Yeah, but they just drain it from the top and
Okay.
then stop at a certain point, just like I do when I'm making beer.
Mhm.
Diatomaceous earth does that. Diatomaceous earth, basically it's fossilized sand,
Okay.
right? That
So it goes through there.
Because
Kind of like a carbon filter.
yes, well, they'll actually just scatter it in there, and it's electronically, it's the electrons. It has an ion charge, which attracts particles to it. So that was how it was explained to me.
Very cool.
I think I have it right. We'll see. It's right enough. So many different ways to filter, right? And gravity is one of the most important. I mean, if you leave those two glasses there in, a day, almost all of that's going to fall down to the bottom.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
gravity helps. All right. So these grapes, not particularly thick-skinned, not thin-skinned either. They're kind of right in the middle. Interestingly, for a white grape, not intensely acidic in the center. One of them more natural, it has a little medium acidity compared to other white grapes. And and like I said, it's kind of a modest skin on there, not a ton of flavor in there either. Lots of sugar production and kind of just gentle flavors from that peripheral zone on the outside and in the skin. So
Are there any whites that have thick skins?
Yeah, there
Yeah?
are some that have some thicker skins, but they tend to be kind of unpleasant tasting.
Okay, we don't make wine out of those.
Yeah, like muscadine.
I was just gonna say muscadine.
It's not that no one makes wine out of them, it's that no one should make wine out of them.
There you
One man's opinion.
go. Ready?
Yes. All right, so where in the world are we sourcing these grapes from? This is actually California appellation, right? It's just California.
Really?
But you're like, wait a minute, Jeff, this is Orin Swift. This is good stuff.
Yeah.
This is not cheap, right? Yes. All right. It is from California, but it's from multiple areas in California, all of which are high end. So they have to call it Californian rather than splitting up.
You explained that to us either last week or the week before, that we were talking about, like, if they take from different appellations.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, then they have to just call it California.
Just call it, because it's a blending of multiple high-end appellations, it's still called just California. There's no other thing they're allowed to call it, even though the inexpensive warm growth, Chardonnay would also just be called California. So it's not able, this wine, it's really one part of it is, I know the winemaker, I know what he does, I know his history. So, and then of course I dug into it and I know where the grapes come from now, but looking at it, that is not like, it'd be fun. We should do a thing with like reading wine labels and what I look for.
Yeah.
Like when I don't know, just blind reading a wine label. So normally if I walk around and I'm just in a wine store and I'm looking for Chardonnay, which would be shocking because my wife wouldn't join me. But so let's say I'm doing that, right?
That's for your mistress. It's fine.
There you go.
She likes Chardonnay a lot. I don't know why.
Variety is the spice of life.
There you go. Okay, so you're there getting Chardonnay for the other woman.
Right. All right. So if I'm looking and I just see California as it's from California, I'm immediately thinking, all right, that's
right. It seems very generic.
Yeah, kind of generic, likely to be warm growth. I like something with a little more character, a little more care, that kind of a thing. So I'm probably going to shy off. So that's one thing this has to kind of overcome.
Sure.
Once again, not actually a problem with this wine. It's just one of those things where if you didn't know,
it's a labeling problem. It's optics.
Yeah, it's optics. Even though, I mean, the label, which we could talk about, super flashy.
I love the label.
Right.
Yeah.
Great labeling, great name. It is Orin Swift, so which we all know, like, I know many of us are experienced, that we've had Orin Swift wines. Dave Phinney, we've had Dave Phinney's wines before. Dave Phinney's, who we're drinking tonight. Anyway, knowing all those things, then you move past.
Right.
But completely blind, I would say, wait a minute, what's going on? It's just Californian and it's $35 a bottle.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's an interesting thing.
Right.
So here we are. We are in the United States. We're in California.
I'll let you take the...
We're right in the middle growing of the latitudes, right? For the northern hemisphere wine growing latitudes, right? Let's zoom in here. So here we are in California. Well, actually, we're in California. Where in California, right?
Everywhere.
Well, we are in three different locations, most likely.
Okay.
They never explicitly tell you, but they hint. And I believe I've cracked the code. Right. So here we are, California wine growing regions. All right. So Dave Phinney does most of his work in Napa and some in Sonoma, right? His sourcings for these are Napa, Sonoma, and Santa Barbara.
Oh, wow. That's very far south.
So so you have the North Coast up here, and then you jump way down here. So one might think, well, wait a minute, look how far south you went, Jeff. Clearly there's, with the tropical notes on here.
There's warm growth in there.
We've got some warm growth in there, right? Not necessarily so. the Pacific Ocean is a powerful, powerful thing. And Santa Barbara, despite being way down here, is not warm growth. Inland, you go in here to the inland valleys.
Mhm.
This is where they're growing the warm growth Chardonnay. Not here. The Pacific Ocean actually still has this nice and cool.
Sure, that's why they wear sweaters to their beaches.
That is
And
very
we
true.
do not.
And their water is like 47 degrees in the
Yeah,
summer.
there you go.
But so anyway, Santa Barbara in here, cool growth. They have this great long dry fall where they get no rain down there, which unfortunately they're suffering from right now with the fires. But
Sure.
it allows long hang time. And so they're able to get a lot of character and get a little more of what's going on in the soil from these guys down here. So that's why they're included. And once again, they don't explicitly state this, but they do state that they source from those 3 locations. So.
Okay. So, but even if it was just Napa and Sonoma, which are adjacent to one another, you'd still have to call it California, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, you're
All right.
exactly right.
Unless it's exclusively from Sonoma grapes or exclusively from Napa or exclusively from Santa Barbara.
Right. If you did actually, if you did Napa, Sonoma, you can call it North Coast.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
You could call it North Coast,
Okay.
but you couldn't do more than that. And a lot of people, because I've seen some Napa Sonomas that are just called California.
Okay.
It depends on what they choose to do. But you're right. When you join in one from way down here, there's absolutely no choice but to then call it California.
Okay. I guess I've never noticed before that there's a little spot of purple down near San Diego. I would think that would be way too far south to have grapes, but
it's kind of warm.
Okay.
And if I'm to be honest, I've
Mhm.
never had a wine that has told me, oh yeah, that's from San Diego.
okay.
So
Well, maybe they're just like small local.
they may be.
vineyards
It may
and-
just be
yeah.
small local.
Okay.
I won't judge them. I haven't tasted it. All right, so here we are. So there's Santa Barbara.
Every time you put one of these up, I think I could live there.
Right. That's nice.
And then I look out and everything's flat
Right.
outside my window.
And I believe this one, yeah, this is Sonoma. Am I right? Where's my thing? Can I move this?
You can move.
Yeah,
that.
that's Sonoma. That's what
Okay.
all right. So that's where, because we're up in the North Coast. You got the mountains here, you got the Pacific Ocean over here, the fog's rolling over, cooling it down. Chardonnay optimally is a cooler growth. It'll grow anywhere. It's pretty forgiving, but not anywhere. It won't grow in Florida, it'll rot. But in a wine growing region, it's fairly forgiving. But it is, in my opinion, and in most people's opinion, much nicer when it's cooler growth, higher acid, right?
Okay.
And then some Napa, which now this in the Napa part, right? Why is there so much fog? I mean, that's
Mhm.
further inland than
Right,
Sonoma,
right.
not at the bottom, right? So let's jump back up here. So at the bottom here, this is where Chardonnay is grown in Napa and most in Sonoma. Sonoma is grown along here near the coast
Mhm.
and at the bottom in Carneros. So this is the San Francisco Bay. And the fogs come in this direction down here.
Okay.
And this is the coolest part of Napa. So Napa, which I've talked about before, Napa is the opposite of what you would think. It's cooler south, warmer north.
That's right. You've said that before.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah.
So in this case, they would be from the southern part of Napa. And those would be the Bay fogs coming in. All right. So Dave Phinney. Dave Phinney, winemaking superstar extraordinaire. Who started Orin Swift wines, of which this is one, right? This is an Orin Swift wine label. He also made the Prisoner wines.
Right.
Now, this is the first one that he made of the two.
Oh, okay.
And he actually still retains control over what's going on here, even though he sold the company. All right. He no longer controls what's going on with Prisoner wines, even though he made that one second.
Mm.
That one was sold lock, stock, and barrel. And
Okay.
is being created by somebody else now. So anyway, Dave Phinney fell in love with wines when he was studying abroad with a friend in Florence, Italy in 1995. He loved it so much, he decided, this is what I want to do. His first job was with Robert Mondavi Corporation and Wines in 1997. And in 1998, he started his own business. He started his own winery, which is amazing to me. In 1998, he began making wine under the Orin Swift label. Orin is his father's middle name. Swift is his mother's maiden name.
Oh,
And that's where the name
well,
comes from.
that's really nice
All right.
that he put both of them in there. Yeah.
So he sold the
Very
Orin
cool.
Swift label in 2016, and they're now owned by the Gallo portfolio. So you look at Gallo wines, you're like, wait a minute, Gallo?
Mhm.
There's a lot of cheap wine, like
Yeah.
it says the word Gallo on it. But
Right.
they actually make some really good wine. And as a portfolio, they have some amazing wines.
Okay.
So yes, they have some very casual drinkers, as I like to say. And I'm not judging them. They're casual drinkers. That's fine. All right, drink that. But Gallo actually has some really great wines. And they happen to own this one. Now, Dave Phinney, is still completely involved in the making of these wines.
Okay. That's great. He does the locations wine.
The locations
Okay.
wines, that's what we had it
All right.
before. Last time we talked about
Mhm.
Dave Phinney was the locations wines, which are with Gallo also.
That's the one where we can't, there was a Texas wine, but we can't get it, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not here anymore or not being made anymore.
Okay.
Which I'm so heartbroken. I want to drink that Texas wine.
That would be very cool.
Right. So the Prisoner Wine Company, he began in the year 2000 and sold it in 2010.
Okay.
Anyway, he really cut his teeth on working with Zinfandel, but he's worked with all of them and he works with them wonderfully. But he's really, really well known for working with Zin. Right.
I'm just waiting for you to make a pitch for Zin being the grape of the US, because it's like every time you mention Zin and you're like,
hey, I was going
and
to
it
be
should
good.
be the grape of the
And
US.
it should be the signature grape of the United States of America. We grow 90% of the Zinfandel in the world.
That's crazy. It really should be that.
And
yeah.
we make the best Zinfandel in the world. The most high-end Zinfandel usage in the world is all in the United States. Italy makes some good stuff.
Mhm.
They do. They call it Primitivo, but by far the vast amount
Mhm.
of good quality Zinfandel, let alone just volume of Zinfandel, is grown in the United States. And I know we're all about Cab people, and I get it, but Cab is grown all over the world.
Mhm.
Nobody can claim Cab.
Okay.
Maybe the French. But honestly, even they, it's grown so much
Well,
everywhere.
they started it.
They
though.
did. They
Right,
started it.
So, yeah.
So anyway, but Zinfandel, being a very unique commodity that America produces,
Mhm.
they should claim that a little bit more. I
Yeah.
think, just Chile with Carmenere and Argentina with Malbec, Australia with Shiraz, which is Syrah, but
Yeah.
we should, Pinotage with South Africa. American Zinfandel should be a thing that people talk about more. You brought it up.
You're starting
You brought
it.
it up.
You're starting it.
Hey,
It's,
you know
it's a
what?
whole campaign.
When it happens, you all know it started here.
Yeah, exactly.
We're
That's going to be,
we're gonna-
Jeff's going to run for office one day, and that's going to be part of his platform.
That's right.
Yeah,
We're going to call it the I Would Revisit That campaign, because I also made that one up.
there
All right.
you go. Ready?
Yes. All right. His other brand. So we talked about it. So here's the Orin Swift line, the Prisoner wines. They're both fantastic.
Mhm.
Prisoner's still fantastic.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I know Dave's doesn't have his finger on it anymore directly, but they've certainly done a wonderful job with those wines. And the Orin Swift wines directly still being, they're under this direction
Mhm.
of Dave still. So
We had the one with the hands on it before.
Mhm.
So that's what-
Papillon.
okay,
Mhm.
that's what I thought.
yeah, it's a red
Okay.
blend. So that's their higher. Machete is a red blend as well.
Which one is Machete?
The one with the woman that you can't tell she's holding a machete.
Oh, okay. She's in front of a car.
She's always on a car or in front of a car. When I buy a case,
Mhm.
I believe there are 12 different labels.
Oh, that's
yeah,
cool.
and they're all the same woman
Mhm.
with a machete in a car, but in different positions. It's pretty cool. Anyway, he loves dramatic labels and he loves dramatically huge wine bottles, which drive me crazy because they don't fit in my shelves.
Yes.
But I will forgive you, Dave, because your wine is good. So
Would you like to advance?
yes.
Okay.
Let's see here. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. No, let's go ahead.
Okay.
So, all right. So, time to rate the wine. Now, divorcing your preconceived notions about the fact of whether or not you like Chardonnay. We are assessing what is the quality of this Chardonnay among Chardonnay, right?
Okay.
Right. So this one is particularly important for red wine lovers to think about. All right, don't compare this to your favorite Cabernet Sauvignon and then say, well, I gave it a 75. You're right. It's
Right.
not the same thing. So.
Would not revisit. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Compare it to other shards. that you've had.
Compare it to other shards, please.
Okay. So Paul says 93.
Nice. I say it. Yeah. We get 90 plus points on this guy year on year.
Year in, year out.
So year in, year out. Outstanding wine of superior character, or a very good wine with special qualities, or even just a good solid wine. But one thing I do like to point out every week, don't hate on wines in the 80s. The 80s are very good wines. There is no reason to avoid a wine that has 80 something points.
Yes.
Absolutely no reason for that.
And it was a great decade. So there you go.
There we go.
Okay. So Linda and Brenda say 90, Laura 92, John 91, Dr. Fricker 91, Lisa 91, Angie 90, Consuelo 92.
Nice.
Brian 91 liked the last white a little better.
Okay. Right.
And then Cheryl 89, Julie 90, Mother New 90.
Nice. Nice. All right. So what are you thinking?
It's so hard with Chardonnays for me. I mean, honestly. Okay, Mother Nap. I was like, I don't know why it says new, but I'll read what you put.
Yeah, that's right.
So
Mother Net makes so much more sense.
Yeah, it really does. Now I know what they're saying. Mother knew it was 90. Yeah. So
Hi.
Yeah, for me, it's I mean, as a Chardonnay, I like it. I'm sure I will like it even more with the turkey
when
chili
we pair
that
it with
we
a chili,
have
it's going to be amazing.
in there.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, I would do a 90-91. I think it would bump up a point with
I agree
with
100%.
a pairing.
Right.
It's very hard for me with Chardonnays.
Right.
But I'm not pretending to drink it. I'm actually drinking it.
There you
so.
go. There you go. That is a very good point. Very good. You know what? That's all you need to know right
there
now.
You go.
She's not over there going, oh, do you need a refill? Nope. Oh, it's just funny how that changed. The level never changed in your glass.
Right. No, I mean, it is actually going down, but I do know that this pairs, or Chardonnays pair very, very well with what we're eating.
Well,
yeah.
So the story is, the first time I made this, the chili that we recommended, which I'll be happy to share the recipe.
I can stop the share so you can tell the story. There you go.
When I made the turkey chili, it's butternut squash based with turmeric. It's got a nice kind of Indian blend in there, in the Indian style, like spice blend. And I brought home, because I knew what the pairing would be, and there was no one around. It was just the two of us. And I brought out a Chardonnay, and she looked at me like I had lost my mind.
Yeah.
And I said, just drink it with the food. And
I liked it with the food, which was very surprising to me, because he also brought a red home, which was wise, because I could have just been like, no, I'm not drinking any more of this. And I would have been fine, because I would have just said, I'm not drinking anymore. You have it. Right. But actually I very much liked it with the soup. So, and I wouldn't have, after having that pairing with it, I didn't then say, open the red for me.
Right.
So, which is also surprising, because I know I like reds. So
yes,
when I know I like something, that's what I revisit. So
that's true.
Yeah.
Right.
But actually, yeah, no, it paired very well. So I like this Chardonnay. It's not a butter bomb. In that case, I just wouldn't drink it. So
yeah. Right. No, and there is, I mean, especially as it warms up, then there's a lot of creamy butteriness to this wine.
Yeah.
It is not absent. It is not like
it's
that.
definitely there.
It's not like the Chablis we had a little over a year ago. And it will go great with that tonight. Yeah. And also you gave me a major compliment that night about my pairing abilities.
I did, but I often compliment your palate. So Jeff's just fishing for more
I'm fishing for more
compliments,
compliments. It's what I do. So, I'm a middle child. It's a vacuous hole
Yeah,
of need. All right.
Yeah, I want to say in general, I think that the whites are that they pair better with like one meal, like fish or something like that, or chicken. But like as far as a charcuterie board goes, I don't think whites really go as well with a charcuterie board than reds go with a charcuterie board.
We also do like spicy charcuterie. Like most of our stuff, to be fair, is like heavy, spicy.
Right.
It's not a light board.
Oh, okay.
Right. So it's like if you went with like brie and so you had a creamy cheese and then like dried figs and dried fruit and something like kind of a little soothing on the charcuterie board, then it would be really nice that way too.
Okay.
And so that's what we did. I did a brie. I did like that spreadable garlic and herb alouette cheese.
Oh yeah.
Strawberries, big preserves,
Oh yeah.
grapes, and bruschetta. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
that's what we had in it. It seemed really good with when it was a cooler wine.
So
Mhm.
more lighter side. Yeah. All right. I got you.
Yeah, that was a nice job. That was really good because it does go with those. Is like I say, it's not only chicken and seafood; it's all those nice pairings like what
Fruits and
Lisa
cheeses,
and
yeah.
Chad did.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, but it was a good point. I'm glad you brought that up, Ryan.
Mhm.
Because, yeah,
Yeah. So it depends on
It depends on what you're eating with
put
it.
on your charcuterie board. Then
right.
all the spicy stuff may be better with the red.
Brian just doesn't want to admit he's leaning towards the reds now.
No.
Yeah.
He did lean over. He goes, I'm not gonna lie, the red goes better with the charcuterie. I'm like, did anybody hear that? Besides,
That's right.
Well, she's stacking the board. She's putting all this spicy stuff on the tray.
Though I will say, I mean, with spicy,
Smart for it.
if you go really spicy, then you're going to want to get back over to Rieslings and things to give it a little bit of sweetness. So
Yeah, I figured Brian and I were gonna have a man date night and just enjoy this Chardonnay together, but I had sushi, a lobster roll, and it was
That sounds
fantastic.
oh yeah.
Yeah. That sounds great.
Yeah, sushi would be great with this.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's kind of nice thing.
Any last comments before we reveal?
Well, we're going to thank our sources
Oh,
and then reveal.
yep.
So
Okay. Well, before we thank our sources, are there any
That's right.
last comments?
Right. There's
Okay.
been some great discussion. So
Oh, yeah. And our sources for
All
this
right.
week.
Wine Folly, always, they are amazing. Thank you, Wine Folly, for all that you do. 750.com, that's where I buy everything from. So I get a lot of info for them. Wikipedia, there's general information on the grapes. And Gus Mayer Wine, that actually was about the filtration. That was the picture for the filtration.
Oh,
So,
okay. That was the two different, the
Yeah.
wine glasses next to
right.
one another.
So,
Yeah.
so they sell winemaking equipment for high production. So, if anyone's in the,
Anybody
in the
wants to
market,
get a winery and
that's right.
buy it.
Hey, I
There
wish.
you go.
You
Yeah.
know, when I'm making Zinfandel as my signature grape,
Okay.
I will look them up.
Okay. There you go.
That's right.
Are we
So,
ready?
Let's go on. All right. So next week we are heading to France. All right. We're going to a region in France that we have not been to. We're going to the
Yeah.
Cahors. So, which they are Malbec specialists. So
Cool.
we've had Malbec from Argentina. Obviously, you got to, right? We've had Malbec from Chile. We've had a little bit of blends, the Malbec in it, because it's, Bordeaux and that kind of a thing.
Okay.
But there's one region, Cahors in France, that specializes in Malbec. And I think all of you big burly red wine drinkers are going to be really, really happy
Okay.
with this wine. And I say that, look at the rating.
Yeah.
said I was gonna do it.
I think this is our first 80 something
Yeah.
that we've done. So.
I told you guys, and look, I just drank this wine.
Mhm.
I was so impressed. I said, that's next wine of the week.
Okay.
And it's an 88,
So-
because the ratings don't mean everything.
You disagree with that rating?
I do for the
Okay.
price point too, because by the way, we're going to be sub 20 on this guy.
Oh, wow. Okay. I do see that you threw in your bacon blue cheeseburger.
Yes,
down
I did.
there.
So food pairings: Mongolian beef, andouille sausage, braised lamb shanks, bacon blue cheeseburger. Does that mean I can have one on a Tuesday instead of a
I
Saturday?
mean, you can have one whenever you want. I'm not going to partake in the blue cheese part of it, but you have at it.
So this is, the origin, it is grown, it is different.
Okay.
It's so fun, I think,
Mhm.
to taste the difference with it being from France.
Okay.
So it's anyway.
Because you said we've only had South American.
We've only had South
previously?
American. Yep. I
Mhm.
mean, there was a little bit in the blend when we were in Bordeaux, which there usually is, right? But it's hard to pick it out.
Sure.
But it's nice to have this one that is all Malbec to see this French expression.
Yeah,
So I think you guys are really going to like it. So
I'm excited.
I hope you are, and I hope you'll
Mhm.
join us next week. Let's toast to next week.
Okay, and then I have a comment once the thing is off.
Okay, that sounds
Okay.
good. All right. Thank you all so much for
Cheers, everyone.
hanging with us for White Wine Chardonnay Week. We finally did a buttery oaky Californian, and I like to think people liked it more than they originally thought they would. So
Yes, and I'm looking forward to the pairing too. So
yeah,
okay.
that's going to be excellent.
Cheers,
All right,
everyone.
thanks so much.